Hi everybody, it's Gretchen here. Just getting ready to tackle these cards. I'm just gonna wait a couple more minutes, see if anybody comes. If you want to get started while we're waiting here, we're gonna do this card first. And it'll be the envelope with the darker pink cardstock. And if you want to get started, you could start out cutting out all the pieces. Just getting my scissors here ready. What we're going to do here is, since this card set we're doing 3 cards and we're doing 2 of each exactly the same, unless you want to change up the greetings, because you have options in your kit. So we are only going to do 1 of each here on the live video, and then you can go ahead and make the second one on your own. Or if you're speedy while I'm working, of course, you can go ahead and make both of them while we're on together. The gems for these cards should all be in the envelope with the lighter pink cardstock. So if you are looking for them, that's where they will be. And we don't have a lot of pieces for each card, which makes it a little easier. So all of the pieces you'll need to cut out are on this one, for this card, are on this one piece of cardstock. And you'll see that, you've got one greeting here that says Happy Valentine's Day, and you've got one that's blank. So you can add either one to your card, depending on what you want to use, the occasion you want to use it for. Just getting all my pieces here ready to go. And I'm going to get out my gems. So I can't believe it's February already. That's just crazy. I still don't have any. Hi, Barb. Glad you can make it live. I don't have any other samples ready to go yet. Still working on that other project, and but hopefully finally seeing the end of it very soon, so I can make some more samples for upcoming classes. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and start cutting here. So like I said, we're gonna cut, all of the pieces. We're doing this card first. I'm gonna just shift everything here a little bit. And so it's the envelope with the darker pink cardstock. This color is called Flamingo. And you'll have one of these pieces of white cardstock with all of the images stamped on it, and we're going to cut each of them out. And I often find it easier to roughly cut around each of the images first. You can do this or not, but then I don't have to worry about all that extra cardstock while I'm cutting. And when I cut, I leave about a 1/16 of an inch, a 1/16 to an 1/8 of an inch of white around the image. Now this one, this leaf here has got a lot of, kind of a scalloped edge, and I'm not going to worry so much about cutting perfectly around each of those outer scallops, but I am just going to wiggle my scissors a little bit, so when I have the image cut out, it gives you the idea, like it kind of looks like you cut around perfectly around each scallop, but you didn't have to go to all that detail. Now you can if you want. I just left a couple of bigger areas here, so I'm trimming them down. So you can get as detailed in your cutting as you want, but you don't have to, and it'll still look good. So we need all three of these leaves. Now, a couple of you may find, oh, I had room, so I stamped an extra leaf or an extra little flower or something like that. So yeah, so on here, I stamped 3 yellow flowers. We're only going to use 2. You can, if you do have an extra piece, you can cut it out and you're welcome to use it, or you can, put it aside and use it on something else, or you could just throw it away, whatever. The choice is yours. I just filled the paper with images, or sometimes when I don't stamp one of the images perfectly, I'll stamp it again to make sure you get a good clean impression. So I was saying, when I got on, I was saying that we have this card kit. We're making 3 different cards, and we're making 2 of each card. So in the live video, we will only make 1 of each, since they're put together exactly the same way. And so then you can go ahead and make the second one on your own, unless you are a speedy worker and you can manage to make both as we go. And you'll have to tell me, this is the first time I've done this, done multiple cards of the same design. And you'll have to tell me if you like this format, like if you'd like to do this again in the future. Probably makes it a little, it's definitely going to make it a quicker class. May make it a little easier, a little lower stress. I know some of those the classes we do that have like 10 to 12 cards are a little higher stress, a little more hectic. So let me know what you think. And again, this one is not, this image is what am I trying to say? Um, when I come around here, you know, I'm not gonna cut and poke in. I'm just making a nice clean curve. And so, you know, you might have a little extra white space here as opposed to here. Um, but it just makes the cutting easier. You just want to give it a nice impression of a somewhat consistent outline. And some spots are going to be, like I said, the white space is going to be a little bigger than others because we're not all perfect. But overall, it's going to look, nobody's going to notice that, you know, you dip in a little closer in some places than in others. I really like these images. I've had this stamp set. This is an older stamp set that I've had for a while that I always intended to do a class with, and then just somehow never got around to it. And I found it recently, and I said, you know, and I hadn't stamped it yet, and I really liked how they stamped. And so you'll notice that I called it, you know, the Valentine Floral Workshop because, you know, the flowers and the message obviously make it um, appropriate for Valentine's Day, but it doesn't have to be Valentine's Day. So I did that on purpose um, because I wanted you know, not everybody has a use for a whole bunch of Valentine's Day cards, or maybe you don't send any. But I thought it would be nice because you could use these for other occasions as well. Now you have to write pretty small to fit a message in here, but sometimes you can write really small, or you have a small stamp that, you know, like this one that stamps a small message. Or if you had this stamp set, you could also print on your cardstock, you know, write the message on a computer and print it out, and then you could stamp this stamp, you know, around the images, around the printing, as opposed to stamping or writing after you've stamped it. So it works either way. Use I'm gonna cut out both of them here. I was gonna say I'm gonna use the blank one, but I might not put one on. Well, I don't know, maybe I'll just write a message. Once you put it, I was thinking I was gonna put the blank one on and then I could stamp it afterwards, except that, or write in it afterwards, except that if I attach it with foam tape as I did the sample, it'll be hard to write on. So I do suggest that if you want a different message in there, you write it or stamp it before you attach it to the card. Oops. All right, and then like I said, we really only need 2 of the yellow flowers, so you don't have to cut all 3 of them out if you have 3 on your card. Now, when I stamped a lot of these images, I used the inks I had, and some of the colors I have are retired. No, I have not bought all the new colors yet. I'm slowly collecting them. But I tried to use colors that were very, very similar to the new colors. So when you'll see, like when I wrote in the directions, I told you both what color I used and what color, if you don't have the old color, um, whoops, what new color you should use. So like in this case, the yellow I used is called canary, but that's a retired color. But the color that was intended to be used with this paper collection, which is the spring paper collection from the large catalog, is honey butter. So that would be the yellow you would use if you were looking for the current color. So both of those are listed on the directions, and I tell you which ones are retired and which ones to use as the new color if you have them. Okay, so I have all of my pieces cut out. Just going to pause for a minute in case you're still cutting. Want to give you a chance to keep up, especially since this is a little shorter class, so there's no need to speed along. I don't know if you noticed, but in addition to all us doing two of the same card, the layouts for the 3 cards are similar for the background paper. So each card has a piece of paper that's 3 by 5.5, and then a strip of this beautiful, and it, this is called holographic paper. We have several different colors, and the paper changes color in the light. So sometimes it looks bluey purple, and sometimes it looks pink, and sometimes it looks yellow. This is called Dreamy, is the color of this one. So for each card, we're going to use a piece of pattern paper and a piece of the holographic paper on the cardstock base, and then we're going to put our other pieces on top of it. So another way that makes this card class a little easier is that there's the bases are all very similar. This one, however, is vertical. The other two I designed horizontally. So, like I said, this is the flamingo paper. The flamingo colored cardstock, and this is a current color. And we are going to put the dark side on the outside. So I know most of you, your card kits are already scored, but if you have not scored, you're going to put the 11-inch side in your scoreboard, and you're going to score it 5.5 inches. And then we're going to fold and burnish. We're going to put our double-sided adhesive on the back of our wood grain paper. So onto the green side. And when we attach this to the card, it should be the same height as our card because it's 5.5 inches. And I'm just turning my card because I find it easier to put on that way. However, I'm going to give you this little tip. When you first attach, the first edge you should attach is the short edge to the folded edge of the card. And then, so that would be the top of the card. And then we're going to align it with the right edge of the card. So we're going to align it with the top and the right. And hopefully it is the same length as your card because it was cut to be the same length as your card. But the reason we align the top edge first is because if it was cut a little short or a little long, you can now trim this bottom edge, whether that's the cardstock or the paper, depending on which one's longer. Now mine fit perfectly, so there is no trimming. But if you had to, you can do that, whereas it's much harder to trim on the folded edge. If it was short, you couldn't trim at all. If it was long, you could carefully trim the pattern paper. So that's just a little tip when you're aligning papers that are supposed to be the same length, because sometimes we change paper cutters or we change methods, and not all rulers, paper cutters, cutting boards, measuring implements are always exactly the same, even if they're supposed to be. So the next piece that's going to go on is our strip of holographic paper. And the holographic paper needs adhesive as well. So I'm just going to put a strip of adhesive down the length of that. And I'm going to butt this paper up right up against the wood grain paper. And again, I am lining up the top edge with the top folded edge of the card. And this piece might be like, see, it is a sliver long on me. And I did that on purpose because the first couple of pieces I cut were a little short and I didn't want anybody to be short. So I purposely cut it just like a 1/16 of an inch longer. And so you probably will have to trim this one. And so I just turn it over. So I'm looking at the inside of the card because I can see the overhang better. And I trim that right up against the edge of the card. And now it's perfect. When I saw that they were too short, it annoyed me first of all, but then I wanted to make sure, I didn't want to give everybody a piece that was too short. So all right, so that's how we make the base for this card, and we're going to do the same for all three, just different papers, different cardstocks. And now we're going to put the embellishments on. So most of these pieces I put on with 3-dimensional foam tape. So I am going to put foam tape on the large flower, the medium flower, one leaf, and both little yellow flowers. Other 2 leaves will go on flat, and I'll put the greeting on with foam tape too. But like I said, if you are going to write in the blank box or write or stamp in it, don't put any adhesive on it yet. Either write on it right now if you know what you want to say, or you know, or leave it blank until you're ready to finish off the card to send to somebody. So these little flowers really only need one square of foam tape each. And I'm cutting off other pieces. When you have so many pieces that you're going to put foam tape on, it's just easier to do it all at once instead of just one at a time. Goes a little bit faster. And I'm cutting my foam tape with my new Teflon scissors instead of my old ones that I've been using way too many years. That I think we all do this. We use our tools longer than we need to. We don't want to replace them, and then when we do, it's such a relief, and we wonder why we didn't replace them sooner. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put my foam tape on my Happy Valentine's Day message. So the first piece I'm going to put on is the large flower. And I'm going to put this a little below center of the card, and just so one of these tips of this outline, I don't know what you would call it, but it's not really a fleur-de-lis, it's a very basic fleur-de-lis. So the tip of that, I'm going to put that crossing over that holographic paper a little below center. And then I'm actually going to put my flat leaves on next. So the two leaves I didn't put my foam tape on. I'm just going to put a couple of swipes of double-sided adhesive on. And I'm going to put one up towards the top right and one towards the bottom left. And that will be, I actually want it underneath where I have some foam tape, so I'm just lifting that back up a little bit, the flower up, and so I can slide that leaf under the foam tape I already adhered. Luckily I hadn't really pressed it down, so it was easy to come back up. If yours is stuck really good and you can't get it back up, don't tear at it, just shift to the left or the right where your leaf goes. Now I'm gonna take the foam tape off of, or the backing off the foam tape for the third leaf, and I'm gonna stick that again on the top right, overlapping the first leaf just a little bit. And now I'm going to put on the medium flower, the dark pink flower. And I'm going to overlap that, the big flower as well. And I think what I'm going to do is take off one of these pieces of foam tape I put on so I can overlap it. I'm going to save that foam tape for later. I do this all the time. I put foam tape on and then I go and take it off if I find that it overlaps in a spot where you need to not have it. And now I'm going to put my little yellow flowers on. I'm going to put one down towards the bottom and one up here. And then you can put your message bubble on. Or you can wait. So I'm going to overlap this onto the strip of pink cardstock. And there we go. That's all we need to do. And then no matter which one you used, you could save the other one for another project. And then we will put our gems on. And as you all know, when I put gems on cards, I add a dot of liquid glue. So this card, I decided to put a gem in the center of each flower. So I'm going to put a dot of glue in the center of the big flower, the medium flower, and each of the small yellow flowers. And then I'm going to put my gems on those dots of glue. Oh, I already took out my X-Acto knife. Now, my X-Acto knife, I've been using it to put a lot of gems on lately. So it is quite a buildup of glue at the tip, so I wouldn't actually want to use it for cutting. I was thinking that I do have another knife that I should just keep the one knife around for putting gems on, especially with a duller blade, and then leave the other one for actual cutting. I know other people have different tools for putting gems on, but my X-Acto knife is always right here and it's convenient, so it works for me. Although I know it can be dangerous. So I'll just lift that up so you can see that a little better. And I really do love this wood grain paper. It's pretty. And I think it works nicely with this stamp set. Okay, so the next card we're going to do is the green one. And this cardstock is called Avocado. Again, this is, it is a current color. The cardstocks, I used all the current colors. It's just some of the inks that I didn't have the most current colors. And you should have one piece, and this is the piece that often I stamped some extra images on for you guys. You should have one that has the big flower, the message bubble, and some leaves on it. I have some extra little pieces of cardstock with my images stamped on them, so I'm going to use those. And then you will have your piece of pattern paper, which is this pretty floral, and your strip of holographic paper. All right, so again, if your cardstock is not folded, we're going to score at 5.5 and score on that line, or fold on the score line. The cardstock is cut 4 by 11, so half of the 11 is 5.5. All right, and this card we're going to hold it horizontally. So the first piece we'll put on is the floral. So the back of it is this fun print with all the colorful dots, which I really like that one too, but it's the trouble with double-sided paper, right? Sometimes you really love both sides, and it's hard to choose. Okay, so once again, we are going to align the top edge of the card and the left edge of the card, which is the folded edge, because it's going to open to the left. And oh, I didn't tell you, but we used the darker side of the cardstock. So when we scored, the darker side was facing us. We used the darker side of all 3 cards. And I'm going to turn the card because, again, it's easier for me to see the edges I'm trying to align. And again, my piece of paper is perfectly sized, so I didn't have to worry about that. But I did get a piece of hair stuck in my adhesive. Happens all the time. Okay, so now we're going to put our strip of holographic paper in. Hope you like this paper. And if you get any fingerprints on it, you can just buff it with a clean tissue or like your cleaning cloth for your glasses. All right, and this gets up right against the pattern paper and lining up the edge next to the folded edge of the card. And again, just like I explained last time, I cut them a little long. So I'm gonna turn it to the back, and I'm gonna run my scissors against the line of that cardstock there, the edge of the cardstock, so I can cut off the excess, and my strip is the right size. And then we just have to add our images. So again, we're going to cut those out. And I've got some extra leaves here. You only need 2 leaves this time, although you could add a third if you like. And again, I'm not cutting perfectly around each scallop of the leaf. I'm just kind of wiggling in and out of that white space to give the impression of a scalloped edge. And then cutting out the large flower. Some of those tips kind of curled up as I cut them out, so I'm just smoothing them back out flat. And then I'm going to cut another Valentine's Day message bubble out. Got a little long there for my teeny tiny scissors. Save that for later. All right, so we just have the 4 images, the flower, the 2 leaves, and the message. And we're going to put foam tape on all but one of the leaves. So I've got that one piece that I took off of the flower from the other card. So unlike before, when on the other card, when I didn't pay attention to where I was putting my foam tape, I will show you here. See, this is where the flower overlaps with the leaf. So I'll just make sure when I put my foam tape, I don't put a piece in that spot on the flower, because the flower is on top of the leaf. So I'm going to say it's about here. So I'm just going to move the, I was kind of centering the pieces on these little tips, And on this one, I'm just going to move it down a little bit so I have room for that leaf to fit in there. And like I said before, if you don't stick it down really well, you can always lift that back up again too. So I'm going to put my flower down. And again, I'm going to overlap the holographic paper and a little bit of the green cardstock here. And I just kind of dropped it. I didn't push it down. And I'm going to put the flat leaf down next, because the flat leaf is really should go on first. But it's hard to put, even though the leaf is the lowest level and should go on first, it's hard to put that one down first, because the flower is that much bigger and you maybe want to see where the flower goes. Now, if you can estimate it based on, you can, let me see if I can, okay. Like I can just go ahead and put that leaf down and then put the flower on top of it. If you're comfortable doing that, go right ahead. I just, especially since you're copying my layout, that's probably fine. But it's a battle whether you put down the first layer or you put down the biggest image. So now I'm going to put my other leaf, and I'm going to overlap the first leaf, but yet get it underneath where the flower is. And now you can press down and make sure it's adhered really well. Hope that made sense. All right, and now we just got our message, so we could take our tape backing off of those pieces. And my trimming was a little crooked, noticeably crooked. And so I'm going to put that in the top left corner. And now we're going to put our gems on. And I put one in the center of the flower, but we only have the one flower. So then I added 2 more down here in the bottom right corner. So again, I'm going to add my dots of glue. And then add my gems. So there's 3 altogether on this card. The one in the center of the flower, and 2 in the bottom right corner on the green cardstock strip of the card. Okay, now we have the third card, and I'm going to give you a second to get caught up if you need to. And I'm going to take a couple of ink pads out because I am going to do a demo of how I stamped this multicolored image for you. Actually, I can go ahead and demonstrate both of them if you'd like. So, I had sent in the email, if you got a chance to look at your email, that I have this stamp set available for purchase if you'd like. I have one that is used, but I only used it to stamp the kits for this class. And then I have one that's brand new. And one of them is claimed, although she doesn't care which one she gets. So there's one available, and I don't remember what price I told you. Let me just check. I know I was giving you a discount, that's why I don't remember. Okay, so the used one is $6 and the brand new one is $10. So if you would like the other one, and if there's one that you would like, if you'd rather have the new one than the used one, let me know. I'm just reaching for a piece of cardstock here. And this is what the stamp set looks like. We used almost all the stamps. I just didn't use this Beautiful. So if you're interested, let me know. All right, so this is how you can do. Oh yeah, thanks, Judy. This is how you can stamp a multicolored image. So what you want to do is make sure you are adding ink. When you're going to add multiple color inks to the stamp before you put the stamp to paper. So in this case, I'm going to do the bird, which is yellow, pink, and blue. To be precise, canary, blossom, and capri. And you want to ink up the stamp with the lightest color ink first, because some of the ink will transfer to your pad, and so you don't want to ink it up with a darker color ink and then you try to use a lighter color ink. Not only will you have a harder time putting yellow over blue, but you will transfer some of that blue ink to your yellow. In this case, yes, I'm going to transfer some of my yellow ink to the pink and blue, but it's such a small amount and it's such a lighter color, it won't matter. So I'm inking up the bird in my canary yellow ink pad first, and I'm completely covering the stamp, just like a, okay, Barb, thanks. Just like I was going to, stamp it solid yellow. Then I'm going to take my pink ink pad and I'm going to just put the top of the image on the edge of the ink pad. And you can move it around a little bit, but you don't want to get too much of the stamp because you want to maintain all three colors. So just along the edge, and see, you can already see it that there's pink at the top and yellow at the bottom. Then you can take the blue and do the same thing at the bottom of the stamp. And you just get the blue on the bottom part of the bird. And see, you can see that multicolor ink on the stamp because the stamp is clear. I know the light is creating a shadow there. So, and then my ink pads are really juicy, but if it had taken you a while to do it and you're afraid, you can then huff on the pad, which basically, just breathe on your stamp. The moisture in your breath kind of gives a little more moisture to your ink. And then you go ahead and stamp on your cardstock. And you get a multicolored image. And every single one is going to be slightly different because you're never going to get the positioning exactly the same. But that's how you can get more than one ink onto your image at the same time. And we're going to do the same thing with the flower. Again, I'm starting with the yellow because it's my lighter color. So I'm stamping up the whole image with the yellow ink pad. Now, because this block is a little longer than my stamp, I got some yellow at the bottom of my block here, so I'm just cleaning that off. Now, towards the bottom of the image, the stem, I want green. So I'm going to put that, I'm putting that kind of in the corner of the ink pad, the stem, so I can get green on the stem. And then I want some blue as well. So I'm putting the top of the flower on the corner of the blue ink pad. And you don't want to, you want to give it some pressure, not too much, move it around a little to make sure you get that ink on there. And again, you can see the colors on the stamp, so you can see if you got it okay. And then I just huffed again, even though I probably did not need that. And then you can go ahead and stamp. Remember to put your cushion underneath your cardstock to give yourself a better impression. And if you hold it down for a couple of seconds, more ink will transfer to your cardstock too. And as this ink, close to my heart ink, dries, it kind of spreads out, settles a little bit, and it does lighten up a bit. So the color does change initially depending on the ink, if the ink is wet or dry. So there we go. So that's how, if you had a stamp, if you have stamps that you want to add more color to, or add multicolors, like in this case, if you really wanted the flower to be one color and the stem to be the other color, you could do that. There's so many stamps out there that you don't necessarily want, like a solid stamp like this, you can't color in. So you can't change the color by coloring it, unless you color over the top. So this is a great option if the image is such that you can maneuver it on the ink pad to add the different colors. And it's kind of more like a, it's more of a watercolor look. It's not exactly precise. Um, but I think it's a fun look. Just gonna put my stamp pads away here so I don't make a mess. Whoops. Okay, and so we can finish this last card that has our multicolored image on it. And we're going to be using the lightest pink cardstock for this one. This is called Ballerina. It is the darker side of the cardstock, even though it's a very light color. So, but you can definitely see the lighter side. The lighter side definitely is lighter. So score on the 11-inch side at 5.5 with the darker color facing you. And then go ahead and fold and burnish. And just like we did on the other two cards, sorry, it's a horizontal card, so it'll open to the left. Just like on the other two cards, we're going to add our larger piece of patterned paper, the polka dots in this case. And the back of it is yellow, so that's where we're going to put our adhesive. Got a little sliver of paper there stuck in my adhesive. And we're going to align it to the left and the top. And then we're going to put our strip of holographic paper. And we're going to butt that up, right up against the dot paper and align it with the folded edge, which I did not do well, so I just pulled that back up. I've got fingerprints, so I'm just kind of taking my sleeve there and buffing those out. It's funny, from the front it looks like my holographic paper was quite a bit longer than the card, but when I flip it over, there's barely a sliver there to trim. Okay, and then we're going to put our bird image adhesive on the back, and we're going to layer that onto our pink cardstock. And what we're going to do is we are not going to center it. Normally, or at least a lot of the time, we center a piece on and we get that 1/8 inch border all the way around. In this case, we're going to line up the bottom edges of the two pieces, and we will get that 1/8 inch border. Oh, my pieces aren't quite cut exactly right. So if we lined up the bottom, we're supposed to get an 1/8 inch border all around. My white piece is a little long. So what I did was I actually brought it down to make sure I got that 1/8 inch border. And so now my white piece is overhanging, and I am going to trim that. And I do apologize if yours is not quite right. Like I said before, not every paper cutter and every ruler is calibrated exactly correctly. And I know for a fact that my two main paper cutters are not quite calibrated. So sometimes I do get that issue. So this is what it would look like if I align the bottom edge of the two pieces. And then I get that nice 1/8 inch border around the two sides and the top. And then we're going to put adhesive on the back of that. And then we're going to, again, align that bottom edge with the bottom edge of the card, which is why I did it that way. Now, your pink might be slightly different. I will admit that I was getting to the end of my supply of pink paper. So everybody has a slightly different colored pink. And you'll notice that my sample card and the card I'm working now have two different colored pinks, but everybody has a pink that coordinates. Sometimes I think I'm all great on the amount of supplies I need, and then at the last minute I'm pulling it together and it's like, oops. Okay. Now in this case, I use the Think Happy Thoughts stamp on my sample. And so you all have a Think Happy Thoughts. I'm not quite sure what happened to mine. You have a piece of white cardstock with Think Happy Thoughts stamped on it. Okay. Found it. And you have a piece of pink cardstock that fits onto with an 1/8 inch border all the way around. And then you also have a piece of white cardstock with Happy Valentine's Day stamped on it. And you have another piece of pink cardstock with that fits all the way around that. So you can go ahead and pick whichever message you want for your card. And I think I'm going to stick with Think Happy Thoughts, which can still be used for Valentine's Day. You can then use your Happy Valentine's Day on the inside, or you could put your Happy Valentine's Day on the outside and put Think Happy Thoughts on the inside. The nice thing about this sentiment is that really it can be used for any occasion. Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, birthday, just no reason at all. Oh, and I just put double-sided adhesive on it, but I actually want to put foam tape on that. So I'm just gonna take that off. If whatever kind of adhesive you use, I use the ATG tape, which comes off quite easily. If you need to remove it, like I just did. But if whatever adhesive you use doesn't rub off like that, you can actually just put your foam tape right on top of the adhesive, and it will still work just fine. I have done that plenty of times. Okay, so I just put my foam tape on that. And I'm going to put this up above the flowers, kind of next to the bird. It's overlapping the white panel that the bird and flowers are stamped on by about 1/4 of an inch. And now we just have to add our gems. And I put all three of them in the light pink cardstock strip. I centered them top to bottom in that strip. And I put the first one about 1/4 of an inch to the right of the white panel, and the second one about 1/4 inch away from that. And then I put the third one about 1/4 of an inch to the left of the right edge. And these should be your last 3 gems. And there we go. All done. So that is all 3 cards. Hope you enjoyed those. Hope you enjoy making your other 3. And let me know what you thought of classes like this where there's multiples. Now, of course, you could always buy a second kit of any of the classes we do. But I know we do a lot of cards sometimes, so let me know if you like these easier style classes. I know sometimes it's fun to just relax and not be as pressured. And I will be in touch when I have some new samples made. I'll hang out here for a few minutes if anybody's got any questions. The sound of me putting my blocks away. If you think of it, if you get a chance, if you can give the video a thumbs up, I'd appreciate it. Thanks, I'm glad you like them. Oh, good. I'm glad that I could show you something new. Share it with the multicolored inks. Sometimes people have seen the technique before, and sometimes they haven't. But then sometimes even if you have seen the technique, you don't always remember. Sometimes it's fun to be reminded about a new technique, or an old technique rather, that you don't always. Sometimes, you know, we forget all that good stuff that we learned at a previous time, and we forget to use it. So it's fun to do it again every once in a while. You too, Barb. Have a great night. Yeah, Cheryl, I have done this before for Christmas. It's been a while. It's been a few years. Because, last year and the year before, actually, the both sets of Christmas cards I used, the card sets. It doesn't, uh, using the card sets obviously doesn't work so well at doing multiples. But you never know. Basically, if there's works better if we're using either an embellishment for the main image or a stamp. So um, we'll just have to wait and see what the Christmas images look like this year. And it is a good idea. It's also great at Christmas, I find, because you don't have to think every single card. Oh, who do I want to send this one to? If you have a couple of the same ones that you want to send to a couple of people. So thanks for your feedback. And I'm going to get going. But if you have any questions, just contact me. And thanks so much for joining me. I'll see you soon.